Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Movie Mates review in the channel. I am Matthew, of course, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Callum.
Hello. Now, we've got another TV show review. We're starting off a new series on the channel. It's another Marvel Disney Plus series entitled What If. It's probably the most different one out of the four so far. Obviously, WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, and Loki. And this one's obviously animated. So I think this is the first sort of proper, Marvel, MCU kind of animated project, if I can remember. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm sure I've missed out something there. But yeah,
No, it's definitely the first canon situation.
yeah, and it's interesting as well, that this sort of does tie into the whole sort of multiverse stuff as well. But yeah, I'll pass over to Cam to explain the breakdown of the show and specifically this episode, because every episode, I guess, is a bit different. So yeah, off to you, man.
So the principal concept of the series itself is the character of the Watcher from comic book lore is taking us through a journey throughout the multiverse, asking the question, "What if?" Where one circumstance or one event is changed, and how that affects the entire outcome of that universe. Within this one specifically, it asks, "What if Steve Rogers was injured to the point that he couldn't actually become Captain America, and instead Peggy Carter was chosen, as a foil for that and became Captain Carter?" Uh, I sort of had my doubts with this series, principally, I suppose, no, not in concept, but mostly, sort of. I was quite taken back by the animation whenever we saw the promotional material.
Yeah, it's quite a funky looking animation, actually. It seems so fluid as well. So a lot of it does seem like, a weird bad CGI live action kind of stuff. Not in the sense that the animation is bad. It just looks like, I don't know, it looks so real in certain aspects, I find. But yeah, I think this is going to be a really interesting series of reviews, just because, as we're saying, every episode is going to be different. So I think we're definitely going to find here that we'll love some episodes and maybe not like some others, just because by the nature of the show, I guess it's they're taking a gamble with some of the decisions they're using for some characters, and it's a lot different from the what we're used to, certainly with the MCU. But yeah, just before we kick off this review, thank you very much for everyone who supported us recently. Callum and myself appreciate that so much, and it's always great to see new commenters in the comment section too. So yeah, if you want to check us out on our email or iTunes, that's in the description. And of course, comment your thoughts on this episode of What If down below. We'd love to read and react to them. But yeah, man, if you wanna open the floor with your thoughts in the episode, I'll chip in where I can.
So I think a lot of my comments for this is going to be about the animation because I don't think the runtime really, extends to the point where we have a lot to say about the plot.
Mm,
I felt, as soon as the episode started, potentially a missed opportunity, not having the MCU logo be animated. I thought
mm.
maybe animating that would have been a cool idea, but no, necessarily uh, criticism there. When it comes to the animation as a whole, I think any comments we make in this episode is going to be probably universal for the series going forward. I recognize that like this looks closer to live action, so it's a bit more of a seamless transition, from animation to live action, especially in the inevitable instance where we see some of these characters adapted to live action, such as Captain Carter, potentially in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. You know, I like my two to be separate. Live action and animation. I don't really like one to reflect the other visually. And any kind of CGI animation these days kind of bothers me. But in all honesty, I eased into this fully within 10 minutes or so, and I can't deny that the action is incredible. It obviously I think a similar comparison would be that it looks a bit like the Telltale Batman games, which was not a positive a positive comparison in my mind. As it went on, I definitely warmed to it.
Yeah, I think the Telltale comparison's actually spot on visually. Anyway, I remember playing the Batman Telltale game, and it definitely has a unique visual quality to it. And I think, yeah, it's really similar here. I think one thing that really helps this episode, I'm not sure what it's going to be like for other episodes, given that they're different characters, but I think it's having the returning voice cast from the live action counterparts, for the most part there. I think I was doing a bit of research on it just to make sure, because in some instances they don't actually sound like themselves, and that's quite a weird thing to say. I think Haley Atwell's back. Um, Sebastian Stan, I think Stanley Tucci as well, I think back. And there's one other name I'm forgetting there.
Dominic Cooper, Toby
Dominic Cooper,
Jones.
yeah, Toby Jones as well. But interesting enough, I found out that beloved sort of voice actor of the channel, Josh Keaton, voices Steve Rogers, which I thought was very interesting. I didn't really pick up on that. I don't know, maybe because I'm so used to hearing him as Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man, but I thought that was a really smart detail, because he actually sounds a lot like Chris Evans in my opinion. I think he did a great job.
Yeah, I think from the replacements that we've heard, he's definitely most sound alike to Chris Evans, whereas the Robert Downey Jr. one, I don't know whether he's trying to sound like Robert Downey Jr. and massively failing, or whether they said do your thing, do something different, or as we sort of mentioned in a previous video, maybe Robert Downey Jr. has some sort of a clause that people can't impersonate him. I mean, it does kind of feel like if it does feel like you should have like a copyright to your own voice.
Yeah, given that he's such an iconic actor, you'd think that's a sort of a classic RDJ thing to do, wouldn't you? Yeah, I would agree actually, because sometimes I would sort of think that this show and maybe the voice actors would maybe be better creating something iconic of their own rather than imitating someone else. I'm not, and Josh Keaton definitely doesn't do that, because I think he sounds original enough where I wasn't sure if it was him or Chris Evans, and I think he does a great job of just, when you think of Steve Rogers as a character, like that is the voice that springs to mind. So I think he did a really good job there. And with that as well, I think the show does a really good job of implementing things that would seem really interesting in live action and bringing them here. An example for me would be sort of the Hydra Stomper that Steve Rogers used. I think that could have worked actually really well in the MCU as like a prelude to Iron Man. Certainly with Howard Stark being involved, I thought it was great, and it's so funny the way they, on the subject of Howard Stark, how they perfectly like recapture the reaction, as he pulls down the glasses with during the super soldier scene. It's fantastic, sort of the panel for panel comparison, if you will, from the live action. It's great.
Yeah, from what it seems, Chris Evans was kind of rumored for for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Haley Atwell is pretty much like wink wink confirmed to be playing Captain Carter. It seems pretty likely that she'll be in that film. Sure. So I mean, people thought that they might be bringing back Chris Evans to play Hydra Cap, or one character within the multiverse, but he may well be debuting this character in live action, Skinny Steve Hydra Stomper, which I think would be really interesting. But when it comes to the voice actor situation, I think the multiverse forgives a lot, because you can say not only was the event that caused the Nexus situation, Peggy Carter taking the super soldier serum, but it could also be that as a child, Steve Rogers was whacked in the throat with a frisbee, and his voice is a little different.
Yeah.
There's a lot
chestnut.
to. I think the multiverse kind of forgives a lot. I think we'll absolutely be seeing that in the Flash whenever they're trying to retcon everything.
Yeah, in a way as well, I kind of feel like with this being animated as well, if the show does a particular or makes a particular decision or character alteration to their story that people don't like, they could easily write it off by saying, oh, because it's animated, it's not in the MCU kind of thing, even though they've went against that by saying it is in the multiverse. So I think it's really interesting, and I would actually be very intrigued to see if they could do like a live action animated kind of crossover in a film, maybe maybe like Space Jam style, even though that's maybe not the best example. I haven't seen any of those, and I'm aware they're probably not the best made films ever, but just in the sense of like, I'm trying to think what is there any sort of movies that do that well. I mean, this is a weird one, but like the second SpongeBob film sort of brings the characters from like animation to like 3D modeling, which I think is quite interesting. I'm not sure if you could do that here. It might look a bit weird, but I think there's a possibility having a crossover. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
Who Framed Roger Rabbit is probably
that's another one.
A comparison that a lot of people would be aware of. So it's clear from this that they've confirmed this is canon. Everything in the Marvel universe is up for grabs, including and bringing any of these characters into live action. But the one that I really care about and the one that I want to see the most is actually Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher. I think if you're going to bring anyone into live action, that's who I'd want to see.
Definitely. I think that the addition of the Watch in the show kind of adds like a good connection between each episode, in the sense that, okay, every episode's pretty much different for the most part, but you have this sort of, underlining theme of this character's involved kind of thing, pulling the strings or just showing us different stories, whatever it is. I'm not too aware of the character really, but I know they had kind of teased it in the second Guardians of the Galaxy film. I'm not sure if they'll elaborate it more in future projects or anything. But I mean, so far, obviously I think our notes will be limited given the runtime. I find it did go in quite quickly, especially in the sense that, we've seen a lot of the scenes before in other films. Obviously, it's not a like for like, but it's close enough where you can tell, okay, that's the super soldier scene, that's the the avalanche scene, and so on and so forth. So I think the episode does a good job of having fresh new concepts, but having the classic stuff that we love the MCU for, if that makes sense. It feels authentic.
Yeah, absolutely. And within this, of course, Peggy takes the super soldier serum. She grows to seemingly, above 6 feet tall. She gets sort of a buffer physique, and I'm really curious as to how they're gonna adapt that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Are they gonna have like Haley Atwell on like CGI stilts? And I have no idea how they're gonna do that. I mean, I suppose if she's always in costume, you can get the muscle through padding, or if she I don't know that it's an achievable physique.
Yeah, it's sort of the She-Hulk dilemma for me in a sense as well. It's the She-Hulk one's probably a bit harder to achieve given that the character's green as well. But yeah, I see what you're saying there. It's
and it's also because with Steve Rogers, you had the before of a different actor, and then the after was Chris Evans, but Haley Atwell is the before. So how do you get the after?
Yeah, I wouldn't like to see another sort of actor play her, in a sense. Maybe an actor who resembles the Captain Carter
and then just
physique.
they just copy and paste her head on her body.
I mean, hey, stranger things have happened. They might do something like that. Just put Haley Atwell's face on, I don't know, Gina Carano's body or something. I don't know, but it's hard to achieve that kind of thing. But hey, I think the MCU is pretty good, pretty solid in terms of de-aging and sort of molding other faces on other people's bodies. I know that when the first Avenger came out, I remember like that was the big talking point about it at the time. Like, because I'm not sure if that was the first time something like that had been done, but it's one of the first times I can remember where they have to like shrink someone down and then sort of and mold someone their face on someone else's body. It was kind of a way. I mean, there's a really good behind the scenes of it on YouTube somewhere. But yeah,
I'd say the only other example I can think of, which I think was in the same year, I think they were both 2011, is with The Social Network, where they had Armie Hammer playing twins, and they had to put his face on Josh Pence's body.
Okay.
I think that's the only one
That's
I can remember. But that still wasn't as impressive because they didn't have to concern themselves with the physicality side.
Yeah, see what you're saying, definitely. Man, yeah, that concludes my notes really on the episode. I didn't have much to say with it being a short one, but as I say, if you've got anything, you crack on.
Yeah, I mean, plot wise, I just had one final thing. The Tesseract plays a part in this episode, and we see Captain Carter, through different means, coming into present day. She isn't frozen in ice. She enters a portal. I was sort of confused in this moment, and then I got some clarification on Wikipedia, because I was thinking that, she had somehow just traveled through the portal, and then that led her into the present day. But it was that clearly, because the Tesseract is the space stone, so I was like, well, how has she traveled in time then? But from what I can tell from Wikipedia, she entered the portal, was trapped in time in the portal, and then the portal was reopened 70 years later, and then she came out of it. So there was no time travel as such. She was like in stasis within the portal. Okay. I think
that's interesting. I'd be interested to see if they sort of implement that kind of thing in Doctor Strange too. I just think, with everything I've heard about that film, that is a really ambitious project for Sam Raimi. Like, usually his kind of superhero stories are grounded in reality, with burning buildings and saving children and cats from trees. This is a whole new ball game. So I'm excited to see what he does with it, because he's probably one of our favorite childhood directors, man. So I
Yeah.
really hope for his sake that it's really good as well, because he seems like a nice guy. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure.
I was like 50%, in the mind that, she was going to exit the portal and it was going to be in live action. She was going to be greeted by Benedict
Oh,
Cumberbatch in
really?
live
Okay.
action.
Yeah, yeah,
I was like, because I thought they were like teeing us up for that, by having the animation be so similar to live action. And then I thought,
yeah.
they'd have this final scene as sort of the postscript of her coming into
Yeah.
the live action MCU. I'm glad they didn't, because it would have been too jarring. But I would have understood if they did that.
It is amazing how, like, how similar the animated Captain Carter is to Haley Atwell. It is exactly like an animated, Haley Atwell's face. It's
Yeah,
amazing
and
how
then
they
you
do.
see and then you see Chadwick Boseman, and you're kind of like,
Yeah.
not really.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see, like, is every episode animated the same? Because I think different animation styles would really be fascinating. Like Into the Spider-Verse style would be amazing, because although that took some getting used to at first, I love the cel shaded stuff, from video games on the Xbox back in the day. So I was all for it.
Yeah, I really love the concept of the show, and that, we're getting to explore these different potential realities.
Yeah,
I just think that once you know what the what if is, you're kind of just sitting there enjoying watching it play out. I mean, you're not surprised by anything. You go, yeah, it's just Captain America, the first Avenger, but Peggy Carter's
yeah,
doing it, and she's doing it a bit better. Because she was sort of a pre-trained soldier. So I mean that it does make sense that she was sort of she put in a
yeah.
better performance. Uh, but I think once you know it, you kind of like, yeah, you're just watching it, having fun seeing it play out. I don't think anything that happens in next episode. I hope I'm proven wrong. I don't think anything earth
Mhm.
shattering or universe altering is going to be happening in this series.
Yeah, definitely, especially because, by the nature of the show, a lot of it is going to be, just an animated version of what we've seen in a live action movie, apart from a big alteration there. And for me as well, if I was going to say one thing, maybe slightly negative, I don't mean this in like a disparaging way or anything, but like for me, it felt like I was watching maybe like a fan film, in a sense of like one of those sort of, not fake trailers, because that sounds bad, but like one of those things where you see like a fan come up with a cool sort of concept, like how it should have ended or something like that,
Yeah,
and you kind of see it and you kind of think, okay, that's good, but in a weird way, it sort of doesn't feel. I mean, it feels authentic because it's the MCU, but I can't really put a word on it. Is what I feel like. It does kind of feel
you
like
you
it's
don't mean with like the competency of the filmmaking, just like
just,
you
yeah,
think anyone could have like reasoned out that kind of story.
exactly. Yeah, I kind of feel like it does. It resembles that kind of thing of what you're saying. Yeah, and in a sense as well. Excuse me. I did. I kind of felt that, although the concept is, it's interesting, I felt like it's not exactly totally new ground where I was like, okay, that's an amazing concept that blows my mind. It's I'm not sure if that's been explored in the comics before, but certain things like that have been to a similar degree. So I wasn't like shocked or anything by it, but yeah, like I thought the episode was really good. I think it's a perfect introduction where, like, I don't feel like this will be the best episode, but I think this is a really strong start where I think there's going to be really more exciting things to come.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to episode 3, because it's sort of a what if most of the Avengers were murdered before Avengers Assemble.
Okay,
So it's, I think, like a murder mystery of sorts.
nice.
And some people are saying that's their favorite, some people are saying it's their least favorite. But it sounds more up my alley.
Yeah, definitely, bro. Definitely, that sounds exciting. I suppose, man, if you're going to hop into ratings, what would you give this episode out of 10?
I think it would be difficult to say because we kind of have nothing to rate it against yet, and it's so different from anything we've ever seen before in the MCU. And I don't think we really talk about animation a lot. I don't watch a lot of animation.
Me neither.
I'm sort of limited to Rick and Morty, and sort of the more adult side of animation like BoJack Horseman and stuff. So it's very different from anything I would choose to watch normally. And I would never, if this wasn't in the MCU, I would not watch it off the back of the trailer because of the animation. Sometimes the
Yeah,
animation style is just off-putting. uh and that would be a deal breaker for me if I felt I had any choice to not watch it. But it's in the
Yeah.
MCU, so it's out of my control. I have to watch it, unfortunately. Because I'd be shamed out of certain circles, I'm sure. But this made me feel really nostalgic for Captain America: The First Avenger. It reaffirmed that it's one of my favorite MCU movies. I'm definitely gonna rewatch it sometime soon.
It's my favorite.
Probably
It's my favorite. It's
probably
class.
the whole trilogy, because I mean
Mm.
I love Winter Soldier as well, but I think there's something special about the underdog side of Captain America: The First Avenger. And here we have that, to an even more extreme degree, because she's obviously facing misogynistic views of the 1940s, whereas Steve was sort of just belittled for his size, which I mean, but bullying in any form is not acceptable. But it was interesting to see how both characters were sort of
Yeah,
downtrodden.
another
How they
dynamic of it. Yeah.
I think this made those characters equals, in a way that the MCU actually hasn't achieved before. Because this confirmed to us that she would have got with Steve whether he was Captain America or not. It
Yeah.
was kind of unclear in the first film, because I mean she's kind of like, she seems like charmed by him. He's a bit funny, but then she's like feeling up his pecs and stuff, and you're kind of lost on the message.
Yeah.
But here, I think it showed Peggy in a different light, and I think a very favorable light. So I'd rate it very favorably. I don't think this is going to be my favorite of the season, so I'd probably pitch it at an 8 out of 10. It's very promising, and I think we can maybe revisit the rating if we feel differently in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I and my notes, I had an 8 out of 10 as well. I think it's a really strong opening. I think this show has the potential to be the best, MCU TV show thus far. It'll be difficult because I was just so surprised by Loki that I'm unsure if I could reach that level. But this is a really strong episode. I think I do think though, the Captain Carter thing, although maybe not the most sort of mind blowing, I think really well done. Like you said, I think the way it handles the misogyny of the 1940s and sort of the attitudes of the, especially generals in the army have towards women. I think it was really sort of like insightful. It was good. It was interesting to watch, and it really did sort of, like you said, make Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter like equals in that sense, like you're saying. You can really see them as a really great team. They're really perfect for each other. So yeah, great to see return of voice cast as well, even though there was no sort of major rules by them in terms of minutes. I think it's still nice of them to return for it, and I think it was really well done. So yeah, man, it's have to be an 8 out of 10 as well. Really looking forward to seeing how the show develops. But,
Yeah, it's very different than anything we've talked about, because we obviously watch Loki and we say, oh yeah, this was probably our favorite episode of the season, but it's one story in the end. You can't really
yeah,
tier list. You can't really tier list that, because it's all the piece of the same puzzle. But here, because it's an anthology series, I think it'd be very easy to tier list. At the end of the season, maybe.
definitely.
Us say like what's our favorite episode, because it's not an episode of the same series. It's an entirely fresh story each time, with
Yeah.
some potential crossover, it seems. But I'll not spoil anything. But I'm really looking forward to the future episodes.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. With that, it of course has the possibility to be like a multi-season thing. I think this could easily be like a 5-season thing. You know what I mean? It's got potential. But yeah, that brings our first What If review to a close. Thank you very much, Callum, for your time today, and thank you very much, viewer, for sticking around. Hopefully, if you're watching at this point, we appreciate it. And stay tuned next week as well. And we'll be doing quite a few TV show reviews at the minute. And videos coming back. Callum's let me know, which I'm very excited for. And of course, we'll be reviewing this every week, and we'll be reviewing a lot of sort of new films as well. We're sort of dipping our toe into,
most importantly, the Kissing Booth 3.
The Kissing Booth 3. We'll have Cash back on hopefully for that, and we're going to be dipping our toe into a few different genres that you haven't really maybe seen in the channel before. Obviously, Another Round was our first sort of our second venture into foreign films. So I'm looking forward to reviewing another one as well, another Mads Mikkelsen one too, Riders of Justice we went to see. So yeah, expect loads of sort of new reviews in the channel, and yeah, hope you guys are all keeping well, and hope your family and friends are all keeping safe and well too. Take care everyone, and we'll see you later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.